We have a, what, 98 to 2002, I think is the year range, but it goes farther. Airbag or air spring for a Navigator. This one's a 99 Navigator. The airbags, when they're in the vehicle, when the vehicle goes down and compresses, they're similar to this, the airbag or air spring. And when it inflates, it goes up, where it folds all the time. And you can tell that this one is old and the rubber had started giving away. Well, it had finally started leaking, and we could hear the leak. We could hear the leak, but we couldn't see it. And to verify, we took some Windex, went down and sprayed around the bag, and definitely verified the leak.
Yeah.
So, in order to replace the air spring, there's a clip up here that just goes around here. It pinches across, and we'll show you in the next part of the video, because we still have another bag to change, or spring. You slide it off, and once you slide it off, then you can push it down. When you push it down, you have a fitting here for your electrical and your air lines for going into the bag. And there's a metal spring here. You take a screwdriver and you pop the spring out. Don't lose it. You may need it for the new bag. Our bags that we bought off of Rock came with the new spring clip and also came with new O-rings. Inside here there was a large O-ring, and then on the fitting there are two more O-rings, and then there's a white air hose that had another O-ring. Well, the way I pulled it apart, I didn't disconnect the white air hose because I didn't want to cause problems where there wasn't, being that that is sealed and tight and good. So for right now we'll save those O-rings, and I didn't replace it. But you pop the metal clip off here, you turn it about 1/8 to 1/4 turn. You can see, yeah. It turns, unlocks, slides out so far, then you turn it another little bit of a turn, 1/8 or 1/16 of a turn, and then you can slide the whole piece out. Once you have that out, your wiring out of the way, you can maneuver this around, take a screwdriver and pop this loose. This metal clip here, you can see how it's pinched onto the plastic here, the air spring, and these parts of a metal spring actually sit in a seat on your axle housing. This one, when we pulled it apart, the metal came off of here and stayed in the axle housing. So I took a screwdriver and I popped it out of the axle housing, because the new air spring that we got had a new metal clip. And why put an old rusty one in when you have a shiny new part that you're never going to see again once it's installed?
Yeah.
So for the new one, you just reverse the procedure. You get it, wiggle it up into place. You change your O-rings. A good tool for changing O-rings is buy a small set of picks like this, so you can hook the O-ring and pull it off. Then you change your O-rings, slide it in, give it a little turn, slide it in more, turn it the rest of the way. Once it's in all the way, you take your metal spring, snap it on, shove it, the air spring up through the hole, and you have a guide hole here, so you make sure you position your bag spring the proper direction. And then you have another person, if you have somebody handy. I had my wife, and she slid the clip on for me, so then the air spring was hanging, and I lowered the jack down.
Yeah.
And lowered the jack down and checked the spring, lowered the jack, checked the spring, and got everything close, so this part of it would drop into the proper hole, which it did. And we turned on the air switch on the passenger side floorboard or kick panel, and then turned on the ignition key and aired up the bag. So now our car is perfect riding again on one new bag. The problem is our other bag looks just as bad, so it's going to be going at any time. But we purchased two bags. You can pay up to $200 a piece or more. We found our replacements for like $45 a bag. You can't beat it. It says matches or exceeds OEM quality. Being our original airbags lasted like 18 years, 19 years, and we can get 18 or 19 out of this, the car should be dead by then. Alrighty.
So this is only for the this year Navigator, or
It does, I think, was it 98, 97, 98, whenever the Navigator came out, up to like 2002,
for
was this exact model airbag, or air spring, and then there are some little slight changes on newer ones, but basically the install is really close to the same. Also, other Lincoln and Ford cars, same bag.
The back of the car.
Right here above the tire, and if you look in the metal frame, is where you will slide that one clip off.
Where is that thing now? It's right there someplace. There. There, the band. That's the pen that you need to remove.
On the passenger side of the Navigator, by the passenger's right foot, where it goes on the kick panel, is an on-off switch for your air suspension. Turns the air compressor off. You want to flip that switch to off.
Off. Right now it's off now.
Yes, I flipped it off
Okay,
already.
it's off.
We flipped it off because we had a leaky airbag. You don't want to keep running the compressor and burn up your compressor because it costs a lot of money. So you turn it off. And to replace the airbag, you need it turned off, or you have to disconnect your battery. You disconnect your battery, you lose your radio settings, you lose your seat settings. All of the memory on everything is gone. So it's easier just to turn that switch on and off. It takes much less time. In order to get underneath it to give plenty of room, we have a giant floor jack, because it's what we have and what we've had. So I just put it underneath the trailer hitch because it's easy. I want the suspension to sag down as far as possible. Okay, I want the rear end to hang down as far as possible, stretching out the suspension to make it easier for getting the old airbag out. So we put the jack underneath the trailer hitch. This is a 5-ton jack, so it'll more than support it. And then for safety, we have a 6-ton floor jack that is hooked up to the receiver. The receiver goes from frame to frame, so it's a totally safe spot. You can use one floor jack or two. The tools you'll need are the floor jack, jack stand, a creeper for rolling on, or you can just slide on the ground. Some little picks, because there's O-rings that you need to replace, and if you have the little pick, you can click in, get underneath an O-ring, and pull the O-ring out. It makes it a lot easier for replacing O-ring. There's a clip on the top of the air spring that you need to pull out, so a very long pair of needle nose pliers works great. And there's a clip on the air electrical connector to the air spring, which a little screwdriver works great. It's bent, it gets into nice little spots. For prying things sideways and stuff, I don't like to use a good screwdriver, so I use an old bent one that I have. And then alright. Now from Ford, you can go out and buy an air spring from Ford and you can pay a couple $100s or more. Here's an air spring that's made to OME quality, so the website says, and the outfit was closing out this model. This was $45. $45. Come on, you couldn't have this piece cast for $45. But this is the top of the air spring here. This is where your clip goes that locks it in place. You have a guide pin to make sure you have it facing the proper direction. So all this is preset at the factory. Here is where your air and electrical connectors go in, and it'll go in, twist a little bit of a turn, then you push it in more, and you twist a little bit more and it locks, and then you use the spring lock for locking it in. But you want to replace your O-rings first. All the O-rings and a new locking spring came with these airbags, so they came with a whole installation kit. And for those who do not know how to install, they came with an invoice. You don't want to see the invoice because I don't want you to know where I live. But suspension instructions. They're not paying me either, so let's cover the name of their company. But for 1998 through 2002, Lincoln Navigators, also 97 to 92 Ford Expeditions is what this airbag or air spring model will fit. Okay, so before you get underneath the vehicle, after you jack it up in the air, you give yourself some clearance between your frame rail and your body. If the tire was on here, it would be up here, so none of this would be accessible. But now it's accessible because you have the car jacked up. The top of your air spring is right in here, and there is a clip that you need to pull out.
Yeah. And
so before we get underneath, it's time to pull the clip out. And of course, I can't see because I just was in the sun.
Right there, you got it. There.
And there's your clip. It just clips over the top of the airbag like I showed you on the new airbag. Very simple to pull. So you just grabbed it with a pair of pliers and used my weak hand and popped it right out. Now when I go underneath, I don't have to worry about that, so I can disconnect everything else from underneath there. Here's the air spring that we're replacing. As you can hear, this one still has air, but you can see from going up and down and up and down. This is an early 99 model, so it was built in 98. And right now we're in what, late 2016. So it's surprising the airbag has lasted this long, because this is also the exhaust side of the car. It was another airbag that went flat on us, so we replaced that one yesterday. Decided to buy a pair, being that we got them so cheap. I don't think I'm going to be able to pop this off of its seat because, yeah, see, there's too much air in it. So I need to figure a way to deflate this airbag.
Yeah.
I can either try poking a hole in it and getting it to leak, or possibly by disconnecting up here where the air line goes to it and the electrical line goes into the top of the air spring. Unfortunately, it's hid on this side right here in this corner where there's no room. Instead of being over that way, over that direction where there would be plenty of room. I'm really thinking it might be a good idea to get, I don't know, an ice pick or something and just poke the hole in this airbag right around in here someplace. But in a way, I don't want it to explode. I mean, it's strong. It should just go psst, like a tire, but well, who knows? My luck, it might explode. So we'll let you know when we get to that. We'll put you on intermission right now. I reached up with the pliers right here, up into the airbag, and popped out
the metal
clip, retaining clip. Okay. Then we're still trying to figure out how to deflate the airbag. I put my arm under here and I reached up and I was feeling for the connector. Now that that clip is out of the way, it will let it turn. And remember, I said that it turns a little bit and then you pull it out, and then you turn it a little more and you pull it out the rest of the way. So it's like a safety catch. So I reached up and with one finger right here, I pushed so it would spin it counterclockwise, which it did, and it popped out for the first layer, and psh, really quick. And now you can see it's deflated.
The airbag.
So that was our goal. It beats poking a hole in it. Never know, I might end up using this for a Christmas decoration. Okay, so then put something underneath here and try to pop the bottom of the air spring off. Spider webs. As you can see, the metal piece is fit into the pocket. Again, it rusted into the pocket. So on the new air spring, we'll make sure that we pull out this old metal piece first. This right here. Before putting in the new air spring. Otherwise it won't sit right. And of course it's not going to be easy because it's rusted in.
Oh.
Hey, it was easier that time.
There we go.
Oh, that was easier than the driver's side. Okay, so we got that out. We have our air spring hanging. Okay. Oh.
Nasty. Yeah.
Dirty.
Dusty.
I guess a four-wheel drive has a tendency to get dirty after years. Okay, so we twist once and it relieved the air pressure. Now we twist again and come on. Nothing like an armpit full of dirt.
There you go.
There we go. We pull it out. And there goes the old airbag. Okay, now you can see, here's an O-ring. Here's an O-ring. And the big O-ring that goes here is most likely with the airbag still. That's what happened last time.
Yeah, the O-ring is still there.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
These are all O-rings that we are replacing with the new airbag. These old ones, factory ones, I guess, were built by Firestone. Okay, so now we set down our pliers. And we grab our little pick. With our little pick here, we get underneath the O-ring and slip it off. There's one. Underneath the O-ring and slip it off. There's the second one. Okay. You want to try to keep your hands a little clean. Remember, that's an air connection that's going back. There's one. There's two. It doesn't matter which one goes where. They're both the same size O-rings. Here's number one. Check it, make sure all the way around, good. And O-ring number 2. Okay, 2 new O-rings. New airbag. The new clip.
It's down there now.
Oh no. If you remember, this connection is going to be getting shoved into that corner, or it's going to be hard to get to. This pin for aligning it goes right there.
Right
I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a hole right there, stamped through the metal.
It shows.
Okay, so what you want to do now is you want to put your spring kind of up where it's going. Get your connectors. And you want to put your connector in while it's down and you have room. And of course, I can't get it to line up on the first take. There we go. Little turn, little spin. Wiggle, wiggle. And pushed into place. And then you take your keeper spring.
Where does it go?
Try not to drop it in your eyeballs.
Oh, that locks it in.
And
It's not fully.
there we go. See, it goes in, blocks that groove. Right there is where the airbag's locked, where you would turn and it would go here and then it would slide out. Now it's locked in. Got your connections going the right way. There was a baby O-ring that came in the kit. As we're going up here and disconnecting the airline. Seems to me if you disconnect the airline, put it in over, you're gonna cause yourself problems that you don't have. So we're gonna see what happens by not replacing that O-ring. Okay. I gotta try to work this into position. There we go. Now it's the guide pin is in and it's locked. So at this point, you ask a helper to go around and to put the top clip, the first clip that we pulled off before we crawled underneath, to put that back on so it will hold the airbag in place up at the frame and the body.
And that's me.
Yep.
So I have to stop this.
So there, there goes the camera filming while we get that done and in place.
Alright, so goodbye. Here's the rear tire. Yeah. Here's that thing.
Well,
can you push it up a little more? There. I think it's in.
okay.
It's in?
Yeah,
It's good.
that's good.
Then you'll verify if it's locked?
Yeah, it's hanging on its own.
Alright, not sure. That's how it goes. You see. Right.
Okay, at this point, we got out from underneath. pulled out the old airbag. The new one is hanging because we had our helper put in the clip on top. The bottom of the airbag is hanging in space right now. It needs to be lined up into its pocket, so we need to lower the vehicle down a little. So we'll jack it up so we can get it off of our jack stand. Okay, we're off of the jack stand. Now, I'm gonna lower it down slowly and check it at a few different elevations to see how the airbag or air spring is falling into place. Tires hitting the ground, a little pressure on the suspension, and we'll stop it there. And did it set yet, or did it hang in there? Or can you tell from where you're at?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's like set properly. It needs to be moved.
Alright, so let me crawl underneath there and check and see.
It needs to be aligned a little.
Okay, well there's its pocket. It was really close to going in the pocket. It was hanging up just a little bit. That's why we don't lower the car all the way in case it isn't in. This time it, like I said, it wasn't in. It was hanging up, so we've moved it in position. So we'll crawl back out, lower the car the rest of the way, and the next time we go underneath, we won't be able to use a creeper because we need the extra space. Alrighty. Okay, so I lowered it a little more, so it should be just starting in the pocket. What I'm gonna do now is gonna go turn the air suspension switch back on. Remember the inside passengers
Yeah, we can
footwell, we're gonna turn that on. Then we will take the ignition key, put it in the ignition so it turns the compressor on and starts to air up the bag. Here we go. As they say, walk this way. Okay.
Turn it on.
Turn on switch.
It's off right now. It should be on. On.
Alright. Key in ignition. Putting the key in the ignition so the compressor will cycle. Don't need to hear the radio. And
California weather right there.
come on. Come on. Need the airbag adjuster to kick on. Might have to take the shock down the rest of the way, but I really would prefer the compressor to turn on and cycle a little air into that air spring first. Come on, air springs.
Is that on?
It's not cycling yet. What's going on?
It's working now.
As you can hear, it's cycling, filling up the air system. The other bag had air in it, but this one being deflated, being that it was a new bag.
There you go. It stopped.
Okay, and
It's up
again.
now.
Now,
There's already a space in between this and that.
look at the space between the tires. They're even now between both sides. We'll just do a verification look underneath. Make sure that the airbag is in its, air spring is in its pocket. Okay.
You look like the wind.
Okay. And it feels like it's in there nice and pretty.
Did you remember the metal?
Feel that? Hear that sound? Beautiful sound.
Hey pa.
For the last week, we had one airbag pop, air spring pop. Let me tell you, it was like riding a rigid motorcycle.
Yeah.
No suspension. Every bump you hit jarred your whole spine. Now we're riding on clouds again. It should be sweet. Thank God.
There you go. And that's the end of the story. Ta-da! That's it.
That,
D-O-N-E. Done. That's it.
yeah, right here, this vehicle does have standard shocks too. We had ordered a set of shocks, being that we're replacing the bags, decided to replace the shocks. But what they sent us is definitely not for this vehicle. The ends are totally wrong. So the old shocks have been good for, 18, 19 years. I guess they'll be good for another month. Why we return the ones that we bought and hopefully get the right one then.
Alrighty.
But that is how to replace airbags. It took us a long time because of explaining it to the camera, trying to get in filming positions and stuff, but you can do it if you have a helper for doing those clips. But you should be able to replace your air springs in like an hour for both. It's so much simpler than I thought it would be. So much simpler than I thought it would be. And they charge book time at dealerships and repair shops so expensive to people. When they get a leak in the air suspension, they replace it and put in a standard suspension. They'll put in the springs and shocks, and like I said, with going online, getting the air springs, we got them super inexpensive. I mean, you can convert it back to a standard suspension for what we paid to do this. So if you bought a vehicle and it has air ride, keep air ride. Watch shows on TV. They pay $7,000, $8,000 to put air ride in vehicles. Why would you take it out? Alrighty, have a good day.
Silly, I say.